What were some of those challenges then? Um, uh, like the legacy challenges that they're dealing with. Things go really slow in government. It's just how it is. There's a lot of legacy tech. What is that?
There's a lot of rules.
Right.
There's a lot of fear of mean emails from various third parties. It's like a legitimate concern that wraps up in a lot of things. And it makes it really hard. So you spend a lot of time talking to people that
Mm-hmm.
have been on the other side, trying to
Mm-hmm.
get their products through this process into government. A lot of times you don't realize it is just that hard on the other side. It doesn't matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in an agency, you want to use something, you say it's FedRAMP authorized. Let's go. We can do this really quickly. Well, that sounds right, but that agency has a schedule. They have an ATO schedule, sometimes year and a half, 2 years in advance, where their information system security officers, their ISOs, they're stacked up. And they're going to spend, March 16 through April 14 doing an ATO for this thing, and it goes out. And you'll talk to someone, and they'll say, okay, we can do this ATO for this FedRAMP authorized product, but the first available slot is in a year and a half. Are we going to need it? And that becomes this whole thing. Then you have to fight for it. There's somebody else trying to get their thing into that slot a year and a half from now, and it's crazy. So then you have this situation where once you finally get there, a lot of times, just like with cloud service providers, you got the agency implementation of it, right? So you get to ATO, you think you're done, you're at the finish line. Then somebody else looks at it and they say, ooh, I've got some different questions. And you got to start over again. You just keep repeating with every different customer. It's different. On the agency side, they're going to implement it differently. So they say, I'm going to turn these things on. I'm going to turn these things off. That needs to get reviewed by that agency. What people don't really think about is the agency mission, the agency use case has to get reviewed. So if I'm using something to track pencils, am I going to put that much effort into it? No. But I can use that exact same software to track tanks, nuclear
Right.
weapons, something like that. And all of a sudden it becomes a lot of effort to make sure everything's secure. So you get into this situation where the agency wants to use the cloud service. They spin up a project, they hire a bunch of contractors and consultants to do it because don't hire tech folks in the government. It's just not built that way. Build the thing, get it all ready, and then finally ATO it. And then you hit that nightmare ATO process that everybody complains about. Now that agency is hitting that process for themselves. So think about that. You get a cloud service provider has to go through that on the outside to get it the first time, but they don't think about what it's like on the agency side,
Right.
also fighting to push that thing forward.
Yeah. That's crazy. Is there, like, in your opinion, when you look at the government moving slowly to implement things, make decisions, whatever, are there benefits to that? Or is it all something that, like, culturally, systematic, whatever, you could fix and it could move faster and still be secure and still be,
So theoretically, the benefits are that there is some insulation from shocks, right? If you move slowly, then you're not just doing something that lets out a bunch of people. Take, for example, a typical web service that needs to be available to all Americans. If you're a private company, you start up and you're like, I'm going to put this on the iPhone. I don't care if we'll do an Android version once we get to 80 million users or something like that. You can make that decision. The US government cannot say, hey, we're only going to build something that will work for a small percentage of people.
yeah.
It has to be available for everyone. It has to work for everyone. And so there's this big engine that is there to make sure that people don't get advantages and that people aren't left out. And it causes a lot of thinking and prep. And then there's there's a combination of a lot of scars from bad decisions made in the past
Right.
and a lot of weird, really old laws that are super, super weird that don't like, there's one law,
Yeah.
I think it's the Anti-Deficiency Act from like 100 plus years ago that says the government can't accept a service without paying for it. And so for many, many years, most of the government interpreted that to mean they couldn't sign up for software as a service applications because you would be signing up to use a thing without paying for it. because you pay after you start to use it. If you pay at the end of the month or something like that. And that was a genuine, real interpretation of a bunch of people trying to make sure they didn't break the law.
Wow.
Right? That stopped that from happening until eventually enough folks said, hey, we think this works within the framework of this 200-year-old law that nobody ever imagined a world of electronic commerce, right?
Yeah.
Like that concept did not exist when this law was founded, and it hasn't been modified since then.